Welcome everyone back to the Spider Talk news show. If you're watching this back on replay, then welcome to the show. Hopefully it will be a good show. If you are joining live, then welcome to the chat. I'm going to just post the stream around as I usually do before we get started. And then we'll get started. We've got a really fascinating show today because some stuff has come out. It's not been a major week for news, but it has been volatile when it comes to the things people have been saying. And what I mean, we'll get into what I mean by that, but until then, you know, I'm just going to share the stream around, and hopefully you guys do too. Let's get a few people in here and let's get talking about Spider-Man. So yeah, I'm just gonna post the stream on my community tab. There we go. Lovely stuff. Lovely stuff. There we go. Welcome, Danilo. Hopefully you are okay. Welcome to the stream. Yes, so Tom Holland on the thumbnail. Brand new day on the thumbnail. What is this about? What's going on? Right, what is going on? Spider-Man Brand New Day isn't what we expected it to be? What? What? I thought this was meant to be a grounded Spider-Man movie. The topic lists are on the right-hand side, left-hand side of the screen. It's my right-hand side. The left-hand side of the screen. Welcome, Victor. How am I doing? I'm doing good. Hopefully you're okay. So tonight's topics, we've got, of course, the big topic, which we're going to get into first, which is, of course, on the thumbnail and the title. Spider-Man 94 got released, which is cool. We'll talk a little bit about that. Hopefully you guys have read that comic. I've got a video coming out tomorrow on Spider-Man 94, my full review. Tom Holland interview with Lad Bible, discussing the future of Spider-Man, discussing a few things about the movie, so we're going to get into that. Is Spider-Man Brand New Day a multiverse or street level? I don't understand. Well, we're going to get into that because some new insider information is thrown that up in the air. What's up, Barry? Hopefully you're okay. Then we're going to get into Toby's Spider-Man 2 suit has been sold in an auction, and I'll tell you guys how much it's been sold for. It's crazy. And then Mark Ruffalo's comments about Brand New Day, which I also thought were very, very odd. And no, not just odd, they were mysterious and slightly concerning based on what we saw from Variety, Hollywood Reporter, you know, sort of the very big sort of, you know, Hollywood agencies, right? We'll compare that later in the stream anyway. So hopefully you're all okay. Let me know how you're doing in the chat. Let me know how you're doing. Yeah, are you excited for Brand New Day? Let's just hop straight into it then. So, essentially, a new leak from an industry insider has claimed that Spider-Man Brand New Day essentially isn't going to be as grounded as we first thought. And this comes in from My Time to Shine Hello, who during the No Way Home days was got a lot of things right. Recently, she's had I think it's a she. I'll say they just so I don't like assume. They have had a little bit of a bad rep when it comes to leaks and stuff. But I still think they're in the realm of still being worth talking about, only because of the of the stuff that they got right sort of a few years ago when it came to like the Spider-Man stuff. They were very on it. Sort of like Daniel RPK's. Daniel RPK's had the same. He's a big industry insider. I sort of, and you guys as well, have been a bit more sort of, how do you say, reserved on his judgment recently. But he's had sort of the same, like, sort of vibe where he got a lot of the Spider-Man stuff right. And since No Way Home has kind of been on the back burner. But either way, My Time to Shine Hello is not someone I trust. I completely understand that. For me, they're very low on the insider spectrum. Like, I think Cosmic Circus is like sort of at the top for me. I was sold after the Madam Web and the Sony stuff. That was spot on. Then below that, that's like the Daniel RPK range. Sort of the Cryptic range as well. He's a pretty good insider. I haven't heard much of him recently, but he's there. And then My Time Shall Hello is like underneath that, and then it's sort of the fake, the very, very obviously fake scooper and leaker pages, like Marvel updates. Like, I don't know if you, like, they'll just be called, like, Marvel updates or something. Hello, Ultimate Spidey fan, how you doing? Excited but slightly concerned. There's so much I want from the new trilogy, but mainly a good symbiote saga spanning multiple movies. The Iron Spider suit got around 3 solid appearances, so why not? Yeah, Paddy, you're right. No, you're right. And I'll tell you why I am taking this leak on board. So, My Time to Shine Hello, I sort of went on the back burner of things they said for a while. Even sort of the Spider-Man stuff, I sort of reserved myself, because some of the stuff they got wrong was a little bit concerning. But I'll tell you why I've sort of taken this one on board. Because this supposed leak about Spider-Man Brand New Day not being as grounded as we once thought, I think there's some truth in this. Long time no see, Lewis. Well, welcome to the stream. Hi, cool man. How are we doing? I think there is some truth to this. And the reason I think there's some truth to this, in my personal opinion, is because the amount of characters that are getting sort of attached to this movie. We've had Scorpion, rumors about Mr. Negative, obviously the Kingpin, Hammerhead, all them kind of, you know, grounded characters, Punisher, whatever. But then we've had Hulk, who we'll talk about Hulk later. And we've also had Yelena, who's been linked to this movie. What do you mean Toby's Spider-Man suit is sold and Mark Ruffalo isn't in Brand New Day? Yeah, well, we'll get to that. We'll get to that. Yo, Lewis, what are your thoughts on Tramell Tillman playing Miles Warren, since they said that the villain is going to be someone never thought to be expected? Right, I'm going to get to this. Phoenix, you've hit a nail, right? I'm getting to this. This is in my point right now. So getting back to what I was saying, it's kind of crazy. You know, all of these different characters, not all of them can be in the movie, right? But what if they are? And then I started to think more about it. This movie takes place right before Doomsday. RDJ is playing Doctor Doom. Obviously, RDJ played Tony Stark, a massive character in the influence of Peter Parker. It could all be a coincidence. But with all of the Sony stuff that happened before, with it, you know, them wanting to do multiverse stuff, I don't know, it all sort of lines up a bit too coincidentally, and you can sit here and tell me, well, it's all coincidence, it's going to be grounded. Kevin Feige said so. But I can't ignore the fact that we've got Hulk, Yelena, all of these different characters. It comes out right before Doomsday. RDJ's playing Doctor Doom. And of course, Tony was the most influential person in this version of the character. For this version of the character, sorry. I can't ignore all of these things that sort of line up with this leak. This leak, right? It's not grounded. The film's not going to be grounded. And if this is true, that throws everything out the pram. It throws everything out that we knew about. It throws every idea we had about the movie out the window. Because, you know, we're all thinking it's going to be this magia, crime, underground sort of Mr. Negative, Peter in college, sort of out of the realm of the Avengers, not even really, you know, involved with any of that sort of stuff. We've also got to remember the ending of Thunderbolts as well with the Void. Like, that's a big event that I'm sure they could address as well in Brand New Day. I don't know. It just doesn't seem like it makes much sense for this movie to be grounded. And then you get an industry insider telling you that it's not grounded. I'm sort of like, well, I kind of believe you. I kind of do believe you. I kind of do. So, yeah, I don't know. And then, after that, going to Phoenix's point in the chat, there has been rumors and leaks that apparently Tramell Tillman is going to be playing the main villain of the movie, and that they're going to be playing a villain not seen before, and that someone never expected. Right? What does that mean? Well, that's not Mr. Negative. That's not Mr. Negative. Everyone expects Mr. Negative. It's obviously not going to be Scorpion. Okay, who else do we expect? We expect Tombstone. We expect Hammerhead. We expect Kingpin. We expect Tarantula. I don't know, Unicorn, grounded villains. We expect these type of villains. Who are the villains we don't expect? The multiverse ones. Miles Warren, Morlun. I don't know. Null. Well, it won't be Null. That'd be crazy. No, it's not. It's definitely not Null. It can't be Null. If it's Null, well, it's definitely not, because Null is in the Sonyverse at the moment, or he's. You get what I'm saying? It's not Null. But it could be someone from the multiverse, and it doesn't. This movie, Brand New Day, gets. I have more. The more that comes out about Brand New Day, and the more the set photos and everything, the more questions I have than answers. Something suspicious is going on. Something's afoot, and I think, yeah, I don't know. Something's not right. This can't be a grounded movie. Something isn't right. It is. Something's not adding up. There's going to be a huge twist in this movie, and I can't put my finger on what it is going to be, but something's going on. And now after all of that, which I think largely fans ignored for a while, I think we largely ignored the fact that Yelena might be in this movie, or that the Hulk might play sort of more of a mystical role, or any of that kind of stuff. Or the multiverse, Doomsday looming over it, as it's the last film, literally, before Avengers Doomsday. I think we sort of ignored all of that. And now we've started to get reports that this film isn't grounded. Everything we knew about this film is starting to slowly slip away. So I don't know. What do you guys think? Is this movie going to be grounded? Is it not? It's the battle of the reports and the leakers and the insiders, right? Because you've got one half saying it is, and then there's another half spouting rumors about it not being, but the evidence maybe suggests that it won't be. I don't know. I could not tell you what this movie's about. I really could not. So yeah, that's on that. And I wanted to bring this up because it doesn't even seem like a big thing, but I really think it is. I think we need to have these conversations, because what if this movie isn't grounded? It isn't what we expect. Are we gonna sit here and hate on it? Are we gonna complain? Like, what if this movie isn't actually? What if this movie's about the multiverse? I don't know. Like, what do we do then? What do we do then? I don't know. Lewis, are you into anime? Slightly off topic, but I'm asking you for a reason. I'm not, unfortunately. I'm sorry. Imagine Yelena recruiting Tom Holland Spider-Man in the new Avengers. That could be why Yelena's in the movie. I heard Sony official channel has 2 videos currently privated in their Spider-Man Brand New Day playlist. They do. I think they're going to be new looks. I think they're just featurettes. I don't think they're anything big. I think it's going to be another one from their shoot in Glasgow. There'll be another one. It'll be another one in London, or be one introducing Sadie Sink to the cast or something like that. That's what I think. I don't think it's gonna be anything major. We'll report on it, of course, when they do drop, but I don't think it's gonna be anything crazy. Do you think either Toby or Andrew Spider-Man will survive Avengers Secret Wars? I think they'll both survive. I don't think they're killing either of them. I don't think Sony would let them. The Void will probably be in the montage at the beginning, which is where Yelena will cameo. Oh, that's a good guess, actually. Yeah, to be fair, if we're gonna do Yelena, I think the Void will be in. Yeah, that might be an idea. I could see it starting grounded, but then setting up Doomsday halfway through. See, that's what now a lot of the speculation is. So the rumors and the leaks and the reports were this movie isn't grounded, but then I've seen fans, and I haven't included this in the news segment because I don't want to include pure and utter fan speculation as like news. But fans, I did watch a few TikToks and stuff of fans speculating with this new report. And a few fans going, well, it does make sense, Doctor Doom. There was one specific video I watched from this guy that gave a really good theory about the movie, is that it's going to appear grounded, but then it's going to shift into sort of multiversal elements, and it's going to be sort of staggered out throughout the movie, but then it's going to sort of come into full force towards the end. And I don't know how I felt about it, but it did make sense. That could happen. I'll just wait for a trailer at this point. It says #1 Spidey fan. You know what? At this point, I think that's what we have to do. You know, I think we've just got to wait for a trailer because who knows what this movie's about? Okay, right. Here's the thing. Right, here we go. This is what we're gonna do. In the chat right now, everyone that's watching, I want you guys to tell me what you think Brand New Day is about in one sentence only. What is it going to be about? If you had to take your biggest guess, what is Spider-Man Brand New Day about? Just one sentence. Okay? I mean, I hope Brand New Day will be street level. I hope so. How are you going to have street level villains but not make it grounded unless they use Negative's powers? You see, this is what confuses me, because there's reports about these street level villains, but then there's a villain that hasn't been revealed, but it's going to be someone no one expects. We expect the grounded villains. There's something afoot here. It's going to be Tremel Tillman's character, probably. Could be Sadie Sink's character. Could be Liza Colin Zayas' character. And what the hell is Mark Ruffalo doing there? And we'll get to his comments at the end of the stream, so make sure to stick around because he said some really interesting things. Really weird things about the film. Because I thought, well, we'll get to it. We'll get to it. Paddy Wickstead says, change. Yeah, very much could be. Let's move on then to, while you guys get in the chat and let me know what you think Brand New Day is going to be about. Let's move on to Spider-Man 94's release. Has everyone read Spider-Man 94? So if you don't know what Spider-Man 94 is at all, you're just completely adverse to what that comic is. Essentially, it's the continuation of the 90s Spider-Man animated show. It's essentially season 6 in a comic book. The first issue's out now. I recommend going reading it. It's written by J.M.D. Mateus, of course, very famous Spider-Man writer, comic writer, but very famous for Spider-Man. Yeah, it's there's a full video coming out tomorrow on my pure thoughts about it, my sort of overarching thoughts, but I'll give a quick sort of spoiler here. It's all right. It's okay. It's nothing special. If you guys have read it, let me know in the chat. It follows Peter and MJ. MJ's already back. It doesn't start with Peter trying to find MJ like it does at the end of the 90s Spider-Man show with Madam Web. But it's okay. It's okay. I won't give any spoilers, by the way. But it's okay. Yeah, I do recommend reading it because I think it will pick up. But it's not the greatest, if I'll say. You know, it's an okay first issue. Redefining what Spider-Man means, embracing the little guy in a bigger multiverse, says Paddy. If they're going to do the multiverse, there's a good way to do it. Villains, weapon, 1 gamma weapons, Peter rejects social life, and Punisher argue over morals. See, that's what I think everyone thinks it's going to be about. But I don't know. We're on the cusp of something more, aren't we, with Brand New Day? But yeah, Spider-Man 94 release. Have you read Spider-Man 94? I'm sure if you're big into the Spider-Man comics, you have. If you haven't, and you enjoyed the 90s Spider-Man show, then I do recommend hopping on it and reading it, because I do think it will get better. But obviously, you know, we don't know at this point. The first issue was okay. Lewis, what do you think on Hickman's Ultimate Spider-Man ending at 24 and Norman Osborn taking the mantle of Spider-Man in Joe Kelly's Amazing Spider-Man? Okay, well, I first of all, I need to catch up on both of them, and I'm gonna have videos coming soon. However, I personally don't think Ultimate Spider-Man will end at 24. I think it's done too well for them to finish it. I think the Ultimate Universe will come to a close on whatever they're doing with the Maker and that whole saga. I think it'll be taken over by a new writer, maybe. That's my guess, possibly. And Norman Osborn taking the mantle of I mean, it's just a Superior Spider-Man ripoff, isn't it, really? You know, we need to move away from the Norman stuff. We really do, and that's a video I'm gonna make. I've said it before, but I think it's under different circumstances now. You know, I think in Zeb Wells' run, having Norman be a part of that and eventually becoming the Green Goblin again was fine. That was fine to do, and I felt like, well, it wasn't fine, but the fact that he did it, it was like we had to work with what we had. Norman was ironically, as much as people didn't want Norman to come back to and be the Green Goblin again, ironically, he was actually one of the best parts of Wells's run. After Green Goblin ended, after Green Goblin finished, that story finished, that should have been it. Boom, zilch, done. Should have been the end of Norman Osborn. That should have been the end of the story. Done. The fact that he's back and they're doing the whole... I just can't get behind it. At least Paul and MJ aren't together. At least they're not together. Right, okay. But that's my thoughts on that. Video's coming soon on the topics. Now we need them to do the same in Spectacular. Jay, you're absolutely right. Of course we do. Spectacular Spider-Man needs to get a comic for Season 3. And you've got Greg Weisman to do it. Greg Weisman is literally also a comic book writer. You know, I think the reason they're holding out is just in case they do somehow bring it back, or else I do think they would have done it by now. That's sort of where I'm at with it at this moment in time. I read it and it's okay, says Jay. Possible tangent. Does Spider-Man 94 feature Spider Carnage? At the end of Spider-Man the Animated Series, he jumps into a portal of unknown dimension. Not yet. He isn't in it, but I do think... Because they said they started the issue with Peter and MJ already have found each other. And it says that they're going to revisit how Peter found MJ. That's going to tie into the main story, which I won't spoil. You'll have to read it because it is cool. I think it could be cool. I don't know yet. But I think Spider Carnage might be a part of that. I think Spider Carnage will eventually show up. That's my opinion on that. Osborn is Spider-Man. They're seriously running out of ideas. Exactly, Jay, right? They are running out of ideas. Like, they are just recycling Superior Spider-Man. Like, what is the point? Why would you recycle Superior Spider-Man? Well, there's no point. Peter, really struggling after the events in No Way Home, has nothing left but his identity. Spidey says, cool, man. That was for the sentence describing Brand New Day. And that's fair enough. I hope that's what the movie's about. But Sony owns Spectacular Spider-Man in general. No show or comic can be made by Marvel to do that. Well, let me think about this, because the rights issues with Spectacular Spider-Man are very, very complex. I was sipping my coffee. Decaf, by the way. It is 7 o'clock. Let me think about this. So the rights to Spectacular Spider-Man are very confusing. So the way it works is in 2009, Disney bought the rights to make a Spider-Man television show from Sony Pictures, right? However, they did not buy the licensing rights to the Spectacular Spider-Man TV show. So the reason why it got cancelled and probably can never be made ever again is because Sony doesn't have the rights to make a Spider-Man TV show. Therefore, they cannot continue Spectacular Spider-Man. And Disney doesn't have the licensing rights to the Spectacular Spider-Man TV show directly. Therefore, they can't continue it. So they had to make a new one, which, of course, at the time was Ultimate Spider-Man 2012. That's the deal with the TV show. That's the deal with the TV show side of it. Comics, however... Comics, I don't know. Comics, I'm not as versed on when it comes to rights. But what I do know is I know Sony, at least they did, Sony has influence over the type of comics that Marvel publishes about Spider-Man. I don't know. Someone might be able to correct me. I feel like Ahmad, who we have in the chat regularly, he isn't here tonight, or not yet anyway, would be able to tell us exactly how this works. I reckon he would know. No pressure, Ahmad, if you do end up coming into the chat. Maybe one of you guys know. The way I think it works is I think Sony has an influence over what Marvel publishes about in the Spider-Man comic books, but doesn't have the final say. So, for example, if Sony's making a brand new movie about Spider-Man, maybe they'll say to Marvel Comics, they'll gesture them to use a certain character at the time to bolster their movie. An example of this would be the Dan Slott #1 after Superior Spider-Man was around the time when The Amazing Spider-Man 2 was coming out. They made Electro Blue and featured him in like 2 or 3 comics. Right? That would be an example. That's the way I think it works. Don't 100% quote me, but I think that's the way it works. Someone else who is a bit more versed in that sector might be able to correct me on that. But as Barry very rightly says, if they don't continue it in a comic like they did with the 90s show, with Spider-Man 94 issue 1, and it will be 30 issues, the one thing they could do, actually, legally, is Sony can make an animated feature film of Spectacular Spider-Man. However, the issue with this isn't rights, it is purely financial. The issue with this is that Sony has no financial incentive to make a Spectacular Spider-Man movie. You could say, well, they could do it direct to streaming. They could go direct to Disney Plus, or it could go direct to Netflix, or it could go direct to Paramount or Amazon Prime or whatever. But first of all, they're all competition to Sony Pictures, right? Second of all, you've got to think, is it been too long since Spectacular Spider-Man? Because these shows and these movies have to have universal appeal. This is one thing I think as fans we don't ever realize, right? The comics are slightly different because the comics largely cater to a very direct fan base, which is why we get things like Spider-Man 94, we get things like the new Ultimate Spider-Man comics, we get things like the prequel comic, the Goblin prequel comic that we got to Amazing Fantasy, Amazing Spider-Man #1 a few years ago. We get very niche stories like that you wouldn't get like in the mainstream because the comics cater to a very niche fan base, like us. The movies and the TV shows have to cater to a wider market of people. So adults, kids, the regular moviegoers, the moviegoers that will only go to the cinemas 3 times a year, you know, people like that, okay? Because they want to be, because the movies, every single movie that comes to a theater wants to be a movie that one of those people that only sees 3 movies a year goes to see. Everyone's fighting for that attention. So you can't make a Spectacular Spider-Man movie because, one, it caters to a very specific fan base who want that show to return. Regular Spider-Man fans, like, for example, my fiance, who likes the character of Spider-Man, if I go to her, oh, babe, what's Spectacular Spider-Man? She goes, I got no clue. She'll say, I got no freaking clue. Alright? I've got no clue. If I go to someone on the street, I go, did you see a Spider-Man movie in the last 5 years? They'll go, yes, probably. I'll go, what movie was it? They'll go, oh, Spider-Man No Way Home. We got Toby and Andrew and Tom in the same movie. It was awesome. I'll go, oh, did you watch the Spectacular Spider-Man show? Animated show that released like 15 years ago? They'll go, what's that? So, you know what I mean? So there's levels to this. If they made a Spectacular Spider-Man movie, it could do well. Maybe every single Spider-Man fan goes and sees it and it does okay. It probably doesn't do well. And another piece of evidence to suggest this is, remember Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse? That almost flopped at the box office. It got carried by its critical reception. Its box office numbers was like 300 million in the end. That movie made like $300 million, which in today's terms for a Spider-Man movie in Hollywood is borderline a flop, right? Borderline a flop. When you've got Spider-Man 3 making 800 million, you've got Far From Home making over $1 billion, you've got Spider-Man No Way Home making $2 billion. 300 million is nothing. And that was about... And that was an animated Spider-Man movie. But it suffered from the same thing. You know, it was about a new character. No one had ever heard of Miles Morales. No one. You know, the general audiences maybe have heard his name sort of here and there. No one had heard of Miles Morales. No one. Well, when I say no one, I mean the fans. Obviously, we love Miles. We loved Miles before Into the Spider-Verse came out. Of course, we knew Miles. We read his comics. We saw him in the Ultimate Spider-Man TV show. We saw him in the Marvel Spider-Man TV show that came out as well. We loved Miles. I mean, we still love Miles, but we love Miles, right? The regular moviegoers probably hadn't heard Miles Morales before Into the Spider-Verse. And that movie pretty much tanked because it was about a new character that no one knew. This is what would happen to Spectacular Spider-Man if they made it a movie in theaters. And I believe the same thing would happen if they made a direct-to-streaming movie or a direct-to-DVD movie. Which, do they do them anymore? Is it just direct-to-streaming movies? Probably. That's why they won't make it. There's no financial incentive. Now, if you could guarantee Sony Pictures, you know, at least 300 million, maybe they'd do it. It's not going to happen. It's not going to happen. And also, I don't think I'd want them to do it. Because at the end of the day, Spectacular Spider-Man worked because it was a TV show where they could explore all the different intricate parts of Spider-Man's lore and characters and backstory. Spider-Man works best as a TV show. Spider-Man, controversial thought, controversial opinion, Spider-Man doesn't work as a movie. I don't think it does. I think Spider-Man will forever be better as a TV show because, you know, there's so much interconnectivity with his stories and lore and characters. You have the Daily Bugle, you have all the different villains, you have Kingpin rising in the background, you have Norman Osborn being this sort of person pulling the strings even before he becomes the Green Goblin. You've got Dr. Octavius, you've got Aunt May in there, you've got to include hints of Mary Jane, Gwen Stacy's got to be in there, Harry Osborn, a byproduct of Norman Osborn, Peter's best friend. You've got all this sort of stuff going on, not to mention doing the multiverse or anything like that, right? All this interconnectivity of Spider-Man all going on at the same time, and Spectacular Spider-Man nailed it. You can't do all that in a movie. You can't. It's impossible. So, I don't even know if I wanted to make it a movie. How would they do it? You know, they can't carry on all of those stories that they built up. They'd have to pick one thing, and, you know, I don't know. Either way, rant over. That's why they can't make... That's why Spectacular Spider-Man probably will never get made. Unless somehow Marvel buy the rights to the show off Sony. And if they tried, Sony would probably charge them an arm and a leg. Okay. So yeah. Please tell me you're joking. Miles was in Ultimate Spider-Man, Spider-Man 2017, and the Insomniac game before Into the Spider-Verse. Miles should be a familiar name. Now, you see, Jay, you make a fantastic point. However, you're a Spider-Man fan. I'm a Spider-Man fan. Of course Miles Morales is a familiar name. The regular moviegoer does not watch the Spider-Man cartoons. They do not read the comics. The only exposure they may have had to Miles Morales was the Insomniac game, maybe. On the off chance that they did play it. Because it was exclusive to PlayStation, as I also remember. So that eliminates pretty much half of, like, all console players. Maybe they played the game. And even so, Miles wasn't even Spider-Man in that game. He was a civilian. He was a civilian character. So, we say, yes, Miles is a familiar name. We love Miles Morales. Yes, we do. And we did. But to the regular person... Maybe they heard the name. To the regular moviegoer, they had no idea who Miles Morales was. They had no idea. The same way the regular moviegoer probably didn't know who half the X-Men were before the movies. They knew Wolverine, Professor X, and Magneto at best. This is the thing. You know, the regular person that sees these movies and that's it, probably had no idea who Miles was. And I think that's reflected by the box office numbers of Into the Spider-Verse. I really do. Now, obviously, if Miles Morales was made as an MCU movie, I think it would have done instantly well. But that's the MCU effect, right? MCU is a brand name that I think the mainstream has picked up now. Right, whenever a Marvel Studios movie comes out about a character that no one knows about, it still makes a lot of money because it's the MCU effect. But this, of course, was a separate thing, right? So we've also got to take that into account, okay? Yeah, it was a Sony Pictures animated movie, okay? So we've also got to take that into account. It didn't have the effect of Marvel Studios. But if it was a familiar character that everyone loved, then Into the Spider-Verse would have done Across the Spider-Verse numbers. Miles is now a household name, without a doubt. Miles Morales is a household name. And Across the Spider-Verse proves that. And Beyond, I'm sure, will as well. But before then, he just wasn't. He just wasn't. I'm so glad to see someone else that knows Ultimate Spider-Man, the episodes with Miles and the Web Warriors. Yeah, I think Ultimate Spider-Man got better as it went on. And when Miles came in, I think it was sort of at its peak. People seriously don't remember Spectacular Spider-Man, yet they're remembering the 90s cartoon, hence the comic sequel. Yeah, Jay, you see, that's the thing. The comics are designed for a very, very specific subset audience. Okay, the comic, the audience that reads the comics is so much smaller than Hollywood. So much smaller. It is tiny compared to Hollywood. That's why you can make niche comics like Spider-Man 94. That's why you can do these niche stories that no one's ever heard of. You can take risks with stories. Okay? And that's why when risks do pay off, you know, you get characters like Mr. Negative and stuff that are brand new. And stuff like that. So yeah. And also, I think, you know what's funny about that? I think the comics is sort of having a mini crisis at the moment, because I think they are falling into the, oh, we've got to keep the Amazing Spider-Man as wildly available for all comic fans as much as possible. They're falling into that trap, and they're doing less experimenting. And I think it's just not the right way to go. It really just isn't. Yes. So where else are we? I hope Tom Holland uses his history with alcohol abuse as a way to tell the symbiote story. Paddy. You see, that's a very personal thing for Tom Holland. I think maybe that's a very personal thing. Maybe he uses that as fuel. But I don't think you can do that. I don't think you can. I don't think that's there's a few ethical problems there. But hey, Tom Holland will do Tom Holland, right? A Spectacular Spider-Man comic sequel like Spider-Man 94 would be cool. I don't know if it's ever going to be possible, though. Yeah, I'm not sure what the rights issues are there. Marvel banking on Spider-Man to do well since he's their flagship. Hey guys, can I come this way in, or do I have to break my own window? I love the reference. I love the reference, Super Warrior. Welcome to the stream. You're definitely right. Spider-Man show definitely works better as a TV show, as there are too many characters and storylines to adapt, hence why Spectacular in 90s worked so well. Absolutely, Jay. Nail on the head. That's why they work so well. It is absolutely why they work so well. 100%. Spectacular Spider-Man, more so than any other Spider-Man show I've ever seen, does this exactly right. Anyway, we went on a bit of a tangent there. Let's move on to Tom Holland interview and future of Spider-Man. So, Tom Holland did an interview with Lad Bible recently. If you guys have seen it, then you'll know. But of course, he was asked a lot about Spider-Man. The main thing he was asked about regarding the future of Spider-Man, he's like, well, he doesn't know past this movie. Tom Holland, he's being very cryptic about it. We all know 5 and 6 is going to happen. But Tom Holland says he doesn't know where it's going to go past this movie. So I don't know. He's being cryptic about it. That's all we've pretty much got there. But he also gave us more details about how much fun he's having on this movie, saying it's a new experience, getting to do all different things that he hasn't done before. And that he's spent ages nagging the producers to make sure the script is perfect, saying he's all about the fans. And I love this. I love this. And some people will go, oh yeah, Tom Holland just being PR or whatever. No, I love this about Tom Holland. I think he's one of the most honest human beings in Hollywood. I really do. I love the guy. He's one of my favorite actors. I definitely think there are better actors than Tom Holland, and I've put my hands up before and I said I don't, necessarily think he's got every role that he's had nailed down, but I do believe that I think he will be one of the greats come the time of his retirement. And if he carries on doing what he's doing in and off the big screen, I think he's going to go down as one of the best. And like I said, there definitely are better actors than Tom Holland, but I think he's such an honest guy. And I think the way he talks about Brand New Day, like saying it is one thing, but the way he talks about Spider-Man, you can tell he cares. You can really just tell he cares about this movie, and he cares about the character, and that's his #1 priority. And I love that about Tom Holland. I think he's such an honest guy. Yeah, if they can make Spider-Man 94 comic, they could also do the same with other Spidey shows like Spectacular, the new animated series, and all of them. You know what I would actually love to see? Super Warrior, you've actually made a good point. I would love to see a new animated series continuation. That would be really interesting. That would be really, really interesting. I made a continuation on LewisFiction if anyone is curious to check it out. Mark Ruffalo is definitely in Brand New Day. Yeah. I'll read you what he said later on after we get past this section. Brand New Day gonna make $1 billion. You see, I'm not sure. I think it might just because it's the movie before Doomsday. So I think so. As far as I'm concerned, they should make more experiments considering the current state of the recent ASM comics at the point. Yeah, I agree. They need to do new villains. You know, if they don't want Peter to be with Mary Jane Watson, fine. I've been preaching this for so long. Peter needs to be with MJ. He does. Peter needs to be with MJ. However, if they're not gonna do it, stop beating around the bush, having them sort of will they, won't they, and just don't do it. Bring in a new love interest, a new co-star. You know, bring in Carly Cooper. Do whoever this Shay character is. Do Felicia Hardy. Just do someone else. Make a new character for all I care, but stick with it and make a good story. Just please. And then make new villains. Please, for the love of God. I'm tired of the Green Goblin. I'm tired of the Sinister Six. I'm tired of Doc Ock. Yeah, they're cool characters, but they were cool characters because of the stories that they were in before. And occasionally, yes, we can have the superior Spider-Man. Okay? That's a cool story, right? And it works every once in a while, bringing back these iconic characters. But not to make Norman Osborn Spider-Man, and not to bring the Green Goblin back again and again and again and again until we're both dead, right? So that's what I just hate about. It's what I hate about the Spider-Man comics. Just make new characters, just make new stories, do something interesting. If just please, for the love of God, right? It's never gonna happen, but please. Anyway, that's the. I could go on forever about these comics. Tom Holland and Andrew Garfield genuinely care about the character. Yeah, they do. Toby's just tired, says Coleman. He is. Speaking of Toby Maguire's Spider-Man 2 suit sold in an auction. Guess how much money? $200,000. $200K. 200 bags this suit sold for. 200 bags. Toby's suit sold for $200,000. Oh my God. Imagine having that on like the display back there. You can't even see the display. Oh, the camera doesn't even turn that far. There's the display. I don't know why have I got this display when I don't even show it on camera. I need to fix that. That's just not. It's not right. Are you still going to continue with LewisFiction? No. I'm going to say no. I know. I feel sad about it as well. LewisFiction was great. I love LewisFiction, but I'm solely focused because I've got another job at the moment, so I'm solely focusing on one channel. I can't do two. I physically don't have the time. What do you want to see in Brand New Day? How would you want it to set up Doomsday and Secret Wars? No, Black Suit. Yeah, Paddy, you're right. I'd want Black Suit. I think that's what I'd do. I think I'd keep Brand New Day grounded, and I'd lean heavily on the Peter story, and then I'd just go Black Suit. I think that's what I'd do. Imagine a Spider-Man, the new animated series comic sequel. Yeah, I think it'd be cool. How do you think MJ and Peter would get back together after all these years? Oh, I don't even know. I don't know. They'd find a way. Thing is, I don't know. It's one of them things, isn't it? It's gonna happen. How? I don't know. They got to move MJ on. She's not an interesting character, just like the Raimi trilogy. I'd argue she was in the Raimi trilogy. That's a controversial take, but you know. No, she's not an interesting character in the comics anymore. She's one of the best characters that Marvel, I think, have ever written. I think Marvel did a really good job with MJ. Did. Past tense. Very, very past tense. At the moment, I'm not so sure. MJ broke up with Paul, but honestly, I don't care anymore. It's only a matter of time until they get back together again for one of them to break. Yeah, exactly, Super Warrior, you're right. 200k for a musty ass. Yeah, literally is what I'm saying. 200 bags. $200,000. Mad. Marvel can have Peter have a kid and still be Spider-Man. They don't need to retire him. Yeah, but the thing is the reason why they don't ever let Peter have a kid or have him get married like they did before is because they want to appeal to a younger audience, right? They want Peter to appear like his teenage self again. And while I can see why they do that, there's plenty of I think we can have that. But I think you just need to separate it. Like I think the ASM comics should be spent developing Peter, because that's where most of the adaptations come from, right? You know, if Mr. Negative ends up being in Spider-Man Brand New Day, it's because he was introduced within the last 20 years. Mr. Negative is a very, very, very new character as far as comics are concerned. And slowly but surely, we're not getting characters like that anymore that are being introduced in comics, because the comics seem to just want to repeat everything they've done ever. The Amazing Spider-Man should be experimental. The Amazing Spider-Man, despite being the biggest comic book, shouldn't be conservative. It should be the comic that's always looking to expand the character in new and interesting ways. If you want a subsection, if you want to appease to a subsection of comic fans by keeping Spider-Man young and relatable, then just make a new comic like Ultimate Spider-Man, but keep him young and relatable. And you know, like, you know, I just think, I just think, you know, it's just such a waste. So, gotta keep the will they, won't they for a few people still reading. Yeah, exactly, you know, that's... Well, I love your Spider-Man fanfictions. Yeah, I loved making them, and you know, I'm sorry for those of you who really liked watching them. If I do, I'll bring them back in some capacity on this channel. Oh, we're back. Okay, wait, are we back? Are we back? Let me know in the chat. Are we back? I've just had a notification saying, connection successful. Okay, we're back. We're back. No stress. What was I saying? What if they were to reset the what if they were to ever reset the 616? Stream dead. Stream should be back. Let's just make sure the stream's back. Yo, what's up? Sorry I'm late. I had to finish off college assignments. Oh, no worries. Oh, stream's back. Everyone's saying stream's back. Okay, cool. Okay, so what if they were to ever just reset the 616 universe? You know what? Controversial opinion. I'm not opposed to it. Right? People may think too much history. You know, this character in the 616 universe is the same character from Amazing Fantasy 15, back written by Stan Lee and Steve Ditko. It's the same character. There's so much history there. Would I reset? Yes. Would I completely wipe the slate clean on the Amazing Spider-Man comics? Yes, I would. And the reason why, if given the chance, the reason why I'd do it, there's been too many retcons. There's been too many if buts and maybes. There's been too much. What's the word I'm looking for? Contradiction is the word I'm looking for. So yes, I would do it like the New 52. I'd do it like how DC resets their things. Obviously I wouldn't have it be the new Dally Sky's made a good point. I wouldn't want it to become the New 52. I wouldn't make it like, I wouldn't make it you know, I wouldn't make the actual thing, I wouldn't make it the actual New 52, you know, because that was controversial. Marvel's never going to do it, by the way. They'll never reset 616 Spider-Man. But I would. I'd reset it, wipe the slate clean, and start again. Because then you can do the Green Goblin and you can have all your little characters that you want to do. But I'd just retell the whole thing. I'd retell the whole thing right away from issue 1. Sort of like how Ultimate Spider-Man did it. But I'd do it different. I'd bring in new and fresh characters from the start. I would create new characters from the start. I'd still follow the same sort of timeline. I don't think that has to change. You know, I'd start with Uncle Ben. I'd start with Uncle Ben and Aunt May. I would start with Uncle Ben and Aunt May, and I'd do that story. But maybe I'd do a new love interest. Maybe I'd introduce a new character. Maybe I'd introduce a new best friend. Maybe I'd introduce a new villain straight off the bat. Maybe there'd be a new big bad for the first few issues. Maybe Norman Osborn doesn't even exist yet. I'd start again. You know, I'd do the Gwen Stacy thing. You know, I'd introduce Gwen Stacy and I'd do the death of Gwen Stacy again. Of course, you have to, right? You have to. It's a big part of the character. I won't change the big moments. I won't change the core values of the character. But I'd go again. I'd go again and I wouldn't do Sins Past. And then I wouldn't have to retcon it. I wouldn't do the Clone Saga in the way they did. You know, I wouldn't do these things. I wouldn't do what they did in the Wells run. You know, maybe I'd do Morlin slightly differently. I wouldn't do One More Day. And I wouldn't do Brand New Day. But I'd keep Mr. Negative. You know, Peter and MJ don't have to get married for 10 years. This comic could run for decades. And they don't have to get married. Because you've got a plethora of stories that have already been written. That you can adapt. But you can do new ones in between. And you can have new characters. I would. I just would. I just think it makes the most sense. And then you could have a cohesive, long-lasting Spider-Man story. The main Spider-Man character. This is the Spider-Man. This is him. And it could take what worked about the old one. But it could take what worked about Ultimate. And it could take what worked about the adaptations that people have come to know and love. This is the Spider-Man. This is the one. This is him. That's what I'd do. I'd modernize it. And I'd get it. I'd make it just like this new and fresh thing. We could do Venom. Okay, you could do Venom in the classic way. But maybe it's slightly different. Maybe Eddie Brock is a bigger character throughout the earlier part of Peter's life. Maybe he comes from high school instead of later on. You know, you can do the Agent Venom thing. You can set that up in advance for Flash Thompson's arc. I would. I really would. And maybe it's controversial. Maybe there's too much history. But I think I would. I think I really would. I think I'd just scrap it all and do it again. I genuinely would. Anyway, I've missed out on a lot of the chats. That's why I like Superior Spider-Man. Would have kept Parker Industries. You know, I hated Parker Industries. I really did. But at least it showed progression in the character. So I think I would have kept it. No, seriously. Peter's kids really matter. Like their own solo story. Obviously, yeah, the stream died. We're back now. Honestly, so much history, but might be exactly why they should reset. Exactly. DC reboots all the time. Marvel might as well. If Marvel's going to make the 616 Spider-Man a teenager again, then it's going to upset a lot of older fans. Yeah, but the thing is, Ultimate Spidey fan, you make a fantastic point. It would upset a load of older fans. But they treat him like a teenager anyway. They write Peter Parker, like he's like 28 or something in the comics right now, but they write him like a teenager. He's broke, living off his arse all the time, right? He's broke, living off his arse. Aunt May's still alive. He still cracks the same jokes. His personality is that of a 12-year-old. He's literally a teenager, right? He is literally a teenager, okay? At this point, his life should look completely different to how it did back when Stan Lee and Steve Ditko wrote him. It should look completely different, but it doesn't. It doesn't. It looks almost identical. They just need to just if they're gonna treat him like a teenager, at least make him a teenager, all right? And then we can go from there. That's how I do it. If it could work if Marvel tried, but they followed a similar blueprint to DC Rebirth. Or Dawn of DC Reboot. As much as I want Peter and MJ back together, the damage is already done thanks to Paul, Venom, and One More Day. Glad MJ and Paul are no more. The damage is already done and it's sad, says Jay, and I agree. Modernize everything would be cool. There's too many comics for me to bother starting to read, but if they restarted, I'd be interested, said Paddy. Have Peter Parker die in the 616, and get the reader to think he's dead. Have every hero dress up as Spider-Man. Keep the reader engaged for Peter's return. This is kind of what they did with Superior Spider-Man, though. And it'd be just another case of, well, no one ever stays dead in comics. You know what I mean? So I think that wouldn't work. I think everyone would sort of be tired of that. Thoughts on DC and Marvel making a crossover together again after all these years? I think it'd be cool. It'd have to be right, though. Modern, by no meta jokes, just 2000 vibes. Yeah, like 2010 vibes sort of is what I imagine for if they did a full reset. I think I'd do 2010 vibes because then it gives you time for the comic. Oh, you could do 2000 because then that gives the time for the comics to catch up. So, for example, the comics could go at a regular pace. Like, if they released one every 2 weeks, 2 or 3 weeks. A year in real time could be like, I don't know, like 6 months in comic time. And eventually when the comics, well, they wouldn't ever catch up, but it would give you enough leverage to where it would feel modern. Well, it's like, say you started in the 2010s and you did this. It'd give you enough leverage to where it would feel modern, but it would never feel outdated. And it would give you enough progression to where Peter doesn't age like too fast, but the progression is felt. So every 2 years is like a year in comic time. They would never do this, by the way. This would never happen. But then, so every 10 years would be 5, every 10 would be 20, and you'd get to the point 20 years down the line, you know, hundreds of issues in, Peter has aged 10 years from 15 to 25, and it would feel like an actual progression of a Spider-Man character. So he'd still be a teenager for like almost half a decade, if not more, in this theoretical new timeline, right? And you could do a lot with that. But by the time he's 25, like, that'd be awesome, right? And the comics have gone to 20 years then. That's a long time. And then by the time the comics go for 30 years, you could do Mayday Parker and Miles Morales, and you can have all that stuff come in then. So, yeah. Not really a fan of how they made MJ the new Venom host, especially because in the 80s comics and afterwards she was traumatized by the sim. Yeah, this is what I was talking about, Cham, with the contradictions. It's just all the time. This is why they just need a massive reset. Who should MCU Spidey's love interest? I would have Firestar, says Super Warrior. Carly Cooper for me. I wouldn't mind if Marvel resets Spider-Man back to being 15 or 16 again, plus I'm 16 years old. Yeah, they get the whole appeal thing to the younger audience, don't they? They get to do the whole appeal to a younger audience thing as well. I think there should be an event that ends with the 616 timeline, kind of like how the MCU wants to soft reboot the end of Secret Wars. Yeah. Well, we thought that was going to happen in the 2015 Secret Wars. But it didn't. It did, kind of. Didn't with Spider-Man. Not fully. Didn't fully with the Marvel Universe. They just need a massive slate clean, don't they? DC and Marvel are making Batman and Deadpool crossover. Oh, are they? I didn't know that. That's cool. Old Man Spider-Man would be dope in the main 616. He'd be strong as hell due to his healing factor. Yeah, he would. This is why I'd stick to OG Ultimate Spider-Man comics by Michael Bendis. At least that series was way more consistent, at least when Mark Badley did the illustrations. Yeah, it was. What do we think of Shay, Peter's new girlfriend, as a character in the ASM books? If they keep her around and she's consistent, then yay, let's go. But I haven't caught up fully yet, so I can't give my full judgment, but I'm happy that they've actually made a new character for once. But it won't last. It won't last. Right, anyway, let's move on to Mark Ruffalo's comments. Let's do it. Let's talk about Spider-Man Brand New Day again, and let's talk about Mark Ruffalo's comments, because this was crazy. Right? Well, it's not crazy, but it's just odd. It's odd. So this is what he had to say, so I'm just looking it up. This is what he said. When asked if he was in Brand New Day, he said, "I don't know, I'm still waiting to hear."